Hello there YouTube, Elita Legionarii here, and today I am bringing you a spectator battle. As you can see, I am not actually playing. It's going to be live commed, I'm just watching, but our opponents are, or the players that will be playing are, as you can see here, VOD Vladek and FriedrichSmith, two of the most proficient players at Medieval 2 Total War, and definitely in the elite of Medieval 2 players, the elite of elite even. Regular players in the lobby, and exceptionally dangerous. We have Vlad taking command of France, and Friedrich is taking command of Spain. Now, judging from what I know about Vlad, I reckon he'll rush, and I'm pretty sure that Friedrich will think that too. I do know that Friedrich loves using pikes, and generally plays a more defensive and then counter-attack role, or at least in the games I've played him with, and I've played a fair few games with both of these guys. Both of them are extremely good, and both of them have beaten me up pretty bad in games quite a fair few times. But I've also thrown my own few good games in with them as well, but they're definitely very, very good. I fought both extensively, and of course, as I said, I encountered both victory and loss to them, but I probably struggled more against Vlad, because he's just such an insanely good rush player, and can be so damn dangerous, especially when he's got Russia in his hands. But today he's using France, and of course Friedrich does the smart thing and takes Spain here to deal with them, because to be honest, Spain's probably your best bet for dealing with this. So I'm just going to start here because I don't have to do anything. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes, because I suspect that Vlad's probably going to rush. I'm not sure. Friedrich, they know each other's style pretty well here, so it's going to be kind of tricky for me to assume. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what pans out in this particular battle. It'll be very, very interesting to see what these two will be able to do to one another. So what we're likely to expect here, I'm going to assume. Yeah, there we go. So Friedrich must be private messaging me this. He's saying, I really don't know if I'm rushing, not sure what he's going to bring. So essentially Friedrich's going to play this one by ear, so it'll be interesting to see if Vlad's got a worked out plan, because it's always better if you have a worked out plan when you begin. Okay. For some reason Vlad is facing me. Lol. What? Alright, because this does give me time to check their armies out without them rushing here. So FriedrichSmith this is a build I'm not surprised he's brought. This is very typical of FriedrichSmith. I see 4 units of Pubby's crossbowmen, then I see 4 units of pikes, then I see, let's see, it's either Chivalric Knight, they're Chivalric Knights, yep. Then he's got Conquistadors, Cav, and I think he's got about 2 of those, then 2 more Chivalric Knights here, and then the General's Bodyguard. I think that's the total. What's going on? Nah, carry on, guys. Nice, gives me time to outline the armies. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, he's also got his infantry mixed in here, which look to be dismounted Conquistadors. And yeah, just dismounted Conquistadors, so, and some Chivalric Knights. They're going pretty hardcore there, those troops. This gives a chance to look at Vladek. Interestingly, he's not got what I would call a Vladek rush. So, element of surprise, then maybe he did want to rush. Let's see. He's got, well, these are Flemish pikes, I think. I think they're Flemish pikes. Well, there's several pikes available to them. I can't really see. Yes, they want a triple speed here, so let's do so. He's got 2 Lancers I see there, and he's got 2 Chivalric Knights, 3 Chivalric Knights. His infantry's some Swiss pikemen, the rest would be a Flemish and Swiss pike up the front there, General's Bodyguard, and dismounted Noble Knights. Looks like he's got, and some Feudal Knights there. So, he's gone rush, and he's probably not happy because he was facing me when he deployed there, so clearly this is a rush, and it's not what, I'm not going to question Vladek's ability, he's a better player than I am, but I wouldn't say pikes were rush material, but who knows what he's got in mind, particularly when dealing with Spain. This is going to be very tricky for him if he's not very careful. So we're just at triple speed here because it just speeds things along at a much more efficient pace. But this is definitely going to be interesting. I'm a bit surprised by Vladek's build, to be honest. It's using pikes in a rush can work, but I wouldn't call them ideal rush units. But it doesn't mean they can't work, and Vladek certainly is a player to make a miracle happen with units that don't traditionally work that way. So he's just going to steadily advance here. And are they just talking alright? Okay guys. Oops. Go ahead and destroy each other. So, it's on now. So Friedrich is ready. Based on army builds, I'm probably going to give the edge to FriedrichSmith, but Vladek is basically a miracle worker when it comes to medieval too, particularly in the rush element, so I'm certainly not casting him out of this. Now if he gets a good charge of these lances, he'll do a lot of damage, and of course the Chivalric Knights will do well. So the cavalry fight, I'd call that about even, but the infantry is certainly in the favour of FriedrichSmith, and he's got the missile units, so it'll be interesting to see how this one pans out. So I'd say that Vlad's probably just resting his troops there, stopping them from getting too tired from walking over before. So here we see some cav movement. I'll be cautious here, I suspect. So by the looks of this, FriedrichSmith's going to take a defensive approach. If I personally had been facing Vlad, I would probably counter his rush with a rush of my own. However, I'm not as good at this game as was either of these guys really, as Vladek, but I would probably still counter it this way because I think Friedrich is a defensive player. I've noticed that he's very defensive, and then he usually comes in with counter strikes and counter attacks. Vladek is very aggressive, very rush oriented player. I generally tend to go along the same lines as that myself when I play it. It's just more my style, and I think sometimes it's a personality thing too when you play these games. Sometimes people are, I wouldn't call myself an aggressive person, but I'm not super patient either, so attacking is more my style, and I feel like I'm playing better when I'm attacking. It's not to say I don't like to defend, it just depends on certain given situations. We just did a battle before with these guys, me and Swedish Landsneak did, and we did a real defensive role, and it worked out real well for us, but that was mostly because of the situation the map presented us with. So here's some... these look to be feudal knights. This is obviously a feint, I think, just a feint. But risky though if he's going to throw away a unit of dismounted feudal knights. It's a good unit, but I don't think Friedrich's going to take it. Now I can see what Vlad's doing here. He's got units to fix these pikes in place, and he's going to send down a secondary army, his killing force, onto the right flank there, which is not a bad idea. I'm noticing here that FriedrichSmith's sending 4 units of dismounted conquistadors to deal with that. I'd probably send 1 or 2 to this fight over here once the charge had been done. So here we see Vlad charging in with his lances against these guys, these Pubby's crossbowmen here. But he's become very static looking by the looks of things. He's become kind of static here. That's the thing, he is I think, like, this is just my opinion, that FriedrichSmith is throwing away the mobility of the field, I guess, to Vladek here, and that's actually playing into the strength of Vladek's rush. So I think the best way to fight Vladek is probably to fight fire with him and actually try rushing him yourself. I mean, you can make mistakes when you're rushing, so I mean, Vladek is very good at it. There's a good chance he can outdo it there. Now, here I think, again, Vladek has taken the advantage here because he's got a better charge, a much better charge here than FriedrichSmith is, and he's going to come around and encircle him as well. And of course he's supplied enough infantry to make sure that FriedrichSmith cannot really stop him here. He has to focus here, and this is where I think the dismounted conquistadors could have been useful. We could have used them to support here. And the fight is looking fairly much in the favour of Vladek here, and he's going to get this really wonderful back charge with these Chivalric Knights, and that's going to be some seriously nasty work. And of course he's got all these infantry coming as well. So what we're seeing here is, I think, a classic example of mobility, pace, field control and stuff outperforming a static defence here. FriedrichSmith just put too much onto the side of the defence, and as you can see, Vladek's not even engaging over there. It's all in this cavalry fight, and he's got a complete encirclement and pikes in support. So it's looking pretty bleak for FriedrichSmith, and I'm not to say that FriedrichSmith's a bad player or anything, because he's a very good player, but Vladek is just a superb rusher, and this is an exceptionally it's always challenging to fight Vlad down. So if I were Friedrich, I would probably try and ignore this fight, to be honest. I'd get as much as I could into the cavalry fight, because as is always with Medieval 2, the cavalry wins the fight. So, and Vladek knows this. He's putting the pressure down on this flank, and he's going to win the cavalry fight. And then once he wins the cavalry fight, he can win this fight full stop. But this is Spain, of course. They've got good morale. They take quite a bit of beating. It's going to be interesting the way this pans out, but it's looking fairly good for Vladek, and there's FriedrichSmith's general dying. So a lot of these Spanish units are routing. So the fight begins in earnest over here. Now he won't win against these Spanish infantry, but he's going to hold it in bay for a very long time. And I mean, the crucial fight is this fight over here. Had the dismounted conquistadors been in the fight from the beginning, it would have forced Vladek to start doing cycle charges. So that would have been quite useful for him. However, we shouldn't discount Friedrich just yet. It looks like he's done a bit of a turnaround here. A lot of these French cav are weakened, but he's trying to disengage here. Now, I like to sometimes call FriedrichSmith the escape artist, because he gets such brilliant cavalry disengagements. As you can see here, he's getting another case of very good cav disengagement. He's slipping away. Interesting, he turns around and takes the fight here. That's interesting. He doesn't have the numbers to take this kind of fight, so I'm not really sure what that's about, but look at this. He just gets a perfect escape again. He's so good at it. He gets so lucky every time. But it's not going to be enough here, because Vlad's going to be able to keep up with him and outperform him here. So over here, as you can see, Friedrich's also committed all his forces in this area, and these units here are free, so they'll come around and wrap. He's got reserves here, but I think he's got some reserves there. But as you can see, just the master of rush has rushed in and performed brilliant and executed a wonderful rush, as he always does. And it's going to be a rather tricky sort of situation for Friedrich to get himself out of. However, of course, the Spanish cav is still going. They're pretty gnarly units here. But as you can see, here's ever the opportunist. Vladek comes in and routes this section here so he can come over and support. I mean, to be honest, I'm not hugely surprised once I saw FriedrichSmith take the defensive line and position, because it's quite regularly what he does. So essentially what can happen is you can't sort of predict that he's going to do it again. So I suspect that Vladek knew this, but the thing is with a rush, while you can predict that Vladek's going to rush, very likely, he'll rush in different ways, whereas when Friedrich uses his pikes, there's only so much he can do with the defence before it becomes more predictable. So I think it gives the advantage again to Vladek with a rush. So don't underestimate FriedrichSmith ever. I've done that and I've paid the price. But Vladek is such a good rusher that it's incredibly hard to keep up with him at times. It's very tricky, it's very tough. These are very good micro, and if you're not watching his cav, you're going to find yourself in trouble. You should always be looking out for his cav. But this was a perfect example, just a fixing force and a massive striking force on that right flank. And I think FriedrichSmith took a far too defensive approach to this. And I realise he's a defensive player, so he's probably playing into what he's used to. But I think the way to go around Friedrich is to match his rush for a rush and just hope he can stay in there. Because I've seen people do rush against Vladek, and they can do pretty well. I mean, it just depends. It's all about how well you get your charges and your positioning and various things. But a very good game to both Vladek and Friedrich there. Very well done. A superb rush there, a masterful effort there. And I can understand the difficulty that FriedrichSmith had there, because Vladek is extremely hard to fight against at times. But I think that is it. So he did admit defeat, so I'll admit defeat as well, because that'll end it. And that should essentially be bringing the whole thing to an end, or it should do. Not really sure why it hasn't. So there you go. Vladek has 669 kills, 207 captures to FriedrichSmith 509. So that was a very good game though, but as you can see, just a superb rusher. I don't think I've ever seen a player who can rush quite as well as Vladek. My first game with him, he destroyed me so fast, and I've been wary of his battle tactics ever since. But you should never underestimate FriedrichSmith. He plays much more defensive in his style, but he counter-strikes very quick, and as you can see, he gets very fortunate with cab disengagement. In this case, it didn't work out for him, but don't underestimate him, a great player. If you see these two guys online and you want some seriously challenging play, these two are some of the best players on Medieval 2, so you will get some tricky and challenging play there. So, great game to Vladek and FriedrichSmith. So, hope you guys enjoyed this, and it's always fun to spectate and watch some superb players. So, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you soon next time.